Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. This is a video of, I'm taking part in a project sponsored by TIM Talks Talkies, who has issued, well, it's not really a challenge, but just another project of top 25 films, this time of the decade of the 1980s. And I took part in the project for the top 25 of the 1990s, which was a lot of fun to do. So thank you, Tim, for getting this started again and giving me something to do. I appreciate that. So these are not meant to be the most popular or profitable or award-winning films of the decade, just the ones that we personally like the most, like to rewatch the most. And also, I'm only showing films that I actually own a copy of, either on Blu-ray or DVD. There are a couple of titles that could well have made the list if I owned them, which I don't, unfortunately. And I will give you those two titles at the end. So let's get started, starting with number 25. If you like baseball, then you probably like this movie, Major League, which stars Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, Corbin Burnson. Just a real crowd pleaser. And I was a baseball freak at the time when this came out, so I had a lot of fun watching it. And yeah, sort of a story of a real life team, the Cleveland Indians, who are not doing well, and they try to regroup with new management, and sort of a collection of has-beens and misfits, and they pull it off. It's just a lot of fun. Okay. Next up is a movie which is not a lot of fun, but it's very impressive. That is David Lynch's Blue Velvet, starring Isabella Rossellini, Kyle MacLachlan, Laura Dern, Dennis Hopper, Dean Stockwell, Hope Lang is in it. Strange, that doesn't even begin to describe it. Not easy to watch in some places, because if you tend to have deep reverence for Isabella Rossellini as a screen goddess, as I do, it's not easy to watch her get tortured and pushed around like this. But wow, great film. Dennis Hopper is at his most Dennis Hopper-ish in this movie. Okay, perfectly matched by Dean Stockwell, who's almost as weird. Great film. Next up is Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Okay, directed by Leonard Nimoy, Spock himself, and a great original series film. Great to see all the actors, all the characters, and this takes the legend and the persona of Mr. Spock and just magnifies it by 20,000. It's just a great pleasure to watch. All right. Next up, Videodrome, directed by David Cronenberg, starring James Woods and Deborah Harry. A very prophetic, terrifying, and sometimes very funny movie, all about the proliferation of, well, that's the wrong word, the obsession, I should say, with television and the way things were changing back during this time with video cassettes. This is made to look like a video cassette, obviously. And in the film, that all the technology is completely outdated, because VHS, it's not really a thing anymore for most people. But it doesn't matter, because the story it tells has so much to do with what's happening today, and it's even worse than it was back when this was made. But it's an incredible, unforgettable imagery in this movie. And all right, Videodrome. Next up is a camp classic, Mommy Dearest, starring Faye Dunaway in a positively bizarre and almost eerie imitation of Joan Crawford, the legendary actress, and going through her life and career, specifically her adoption of children. It only talks about her adoption of her oldest daughter, Christina, and her son, Christopher, not the youngest two daughters that she adopted. There are a lot of factual errors in the history of Joan Crawford that are shown in this film, but it really doesn't matter, because it's really all about Faye Dunaway and doing this incredible performance, which I think she probably regrets, because in a way it kind of stuck with her forever, and I think she'd like to forget it. But wow, cool movie. It's almost, if you love Joan Crawford, if you think that she's a lot more than just the Mommy Dearest character that her daughter wrote about, some of which is true and some of which may not be. it almost gives you a guilty feeling to watch it, but I still watch it anyway because it's such a great film. All right, next up is The Natural, starring Robert Redford. This is a film, I came late to the party for this. I only saw it a couple of years ago. I think I bought this used somewhere. I was just kind of curious about it. Blew me away. Absolutely a great, great film. One of the Redford's best performances and one of his best characters. And just a terrific story. Melt your heart. Break your heart. Yeah. All right. Next up is Love Streams, John Cassavetes' last great film, starring Cassavetes himself and Jenna Rollins. Also Seymour Cassel, Diane Abbott. This is another film which is always not terribly easy to watch because the emotions are so real and so raw that it just makes you uncomfortable. It's not necessarily a pleasant experience, but compelling. And in this film, Cassavetes and Rollins play brother and sister, both of whom are going through traumatic episodes in their lives. She's having a marriage breaking up, marriage to Seymour Cassel, and the brother and sister reconnect sort of awkwardly, and it's just an amazing film. So next up is a great western from the decade, Silverado, starring Kevin Kline, Danny Glover, Linda Hunt is in this, Scott Glenn. Wow, just a very cool movie that I think Tom Selleck was actually supposed to be in this originally, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I remember seeing this at the show, and this is a 2-disc set DVD, which is really wonderful and kind of brings back the glory of the Western into the modern era. Next up is a classic family drama, Ordinary People, the first film directed by Robert Redford, who won an Academy Award as director. Mary Tyler Moore, Donald Sutherland, Timothy Hutton, who really is the star of the film, although he got Best Supporting Actor instead of Best Actor. Elizabeth McGovern plays his girlfriend. She's very beautiful. Dinah Manoff is in it, and just a classic film, one that can be watched again and again. Next up is a fantastic horror comedy, Fright Night. Roddy McDowall. This is a great horror film on its own, but it also has a spoofy look at the whole genre, and it's just, I don't know, it's just great imagery. Roddy McDowall, probably one of his best roles he was given in his life. Also, Chris Sarandon, let's see, Amanda Burse, Stephen Jeffries, who was the Charlie, what is the lead actor's name, that kid? I should know this, Charlie something. Okay, so I can see this. No, William Ragsdale. Who am I getting Charlie from? Maybe Charlie is the name of the character. Anyway, just a great, funny horror film. Next up is, this is not funny at all. This is Red Dawn, starring Patrick Swayze. And I didn't like this film at first, but it really did grow on me. It just has a spirit of patriotic fervor and love for one's country, and it's also a great chance to see Patrick Swayze, whom I really miss having Patrick Swayze in the world and in the movies. So this is a great showcase for him. Next up is Dennis Hopper again, Out of the Blue. Not only does he star in the film, but he also directed it. Linda Manz, the actress on the cover, it's all about her, a young woman who is from a very troubled background. Being the daughter of Dennis Hopper, you would have to be troubled. And she's trying to find her way in the world. Not easy to watch in many places, especially at the end, but it is a brilliant, brilliant film. Okay. Next up is Mystery Train. Jim Jarmusch, who directs only weird films, and this is all about a couple of Japanese tourists, guy and a girl, who go to Memphis to look for the Elvis locations and all that, and they end up mysteriously, are they encountering Elvis or are they not? It's very strange, but the title tune, of course, Mystery Train, sung by Elvis, is playing over the opening credits, and a lot of fun. Very strange movie. Next up is a Woody Allen classic, one of his best serious films, Crimes and Misdemeanors, Woody stars in the film along with Mia Farrow. We also have Alan Alda, but the real story is about Martin Landau and his wife Claire Bloom and his mistress, played by Angelica Houston. This is a film that is so beautifully written and beautifully played, all about the nature of evil, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I just highly recommend this, even for people who might be uneasy about Woody Allen as a human being and his relationship with Mia Farrow as a human being. But they are brilliant in this, and it's definitely worth checking out. Right. Next up is one of the best comedies of the decade, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, starring Steve Martin and John Candy, directed by John Hughes. I saw this at the show when it first came out, didn't see it for decades, and then recently picked this up and watched it again, and I just laughing myself silly. Comedy was good. Comedy actually worked back then in this film. It may have died later on, but it was good in this one, okay? Miss John Candy, too. Wow. Next up is a classic performance by Sissy Spacek as country singer Loretta Lynn, coal miner's daughter, with Tommy Lee Jones, Beverly D'Angelo, Levon Helm. Great music performed by, Beverly D'Angelo and Sissy Spacek. Both have terrific voices, and she won an Academy Award for Best Actress. Very well deserved. Okay. Next up, The Big Chill. Great ensemble cast. All these people who have grown out of their radical hippie days in college and are sort of reliving them, but not really. Maybe they're growing up a little bit. Glenn Close, Kevin Kline, Tom Berenger, Mary Kay Place, Jeff Goldblum. Just a terrific movie with lots of great music from the era. And another crowd pleaser that can be watched again and again and again, especially by my fallen generation. Okay. Next up is another Woody Allen film. That is The Purple Rose of Cairo, starring Mia Farrow. Woody doesn't appear in this one. The leading man is Jeff Daniels. And this is about a young woman back in the Depression who is in an unhappy marriage. Her only happiness in life is going to the movies in her neighborhood theater. And she goes to see whatever's playing. And she happens to see this black and white B movie called The Purple Rose of Cairo. She goes to see it again and again and again. And finally, Jeff Daniels, who is playing the lead actor in the film, suddenly turns and notices her and starts talking to her, and leaves the screen because he wants to be with her. So it's just strange fantasy. And what's wonderful about this, I remember there was a review by Roger Ebert at the time, and I can't remember the exact quote, but he said the face of Mia Farrow in the final scene as she's gazing at the screen tells you everything that you would ever want to know about why people go to the movies and why they love watching movies, just to see her face. Anyway, beautiful film. Next up is a classic, teenage classic, The Breakfast Club. I love this movie so much, and I watch it periodically. I'm thinking about getting the Criterion just to get all the extra features, but this works pretty well. This is definitely past my era for teenage movies, but there's something about the universality of what these kids are talking about that I think anybody of any age, any generation can relate to, and everybody in it is just absolutely wonderful. So, next up is a film I can relate to because of my age, and that is Back to the Beach, starring Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello, doing a spoof of their very low-budget beach party films that they made back in the 1960s. And this is the best of the lot, actually. I would say that the very first beach party film, which just had that title, is the best, and then this is the second best. But it shows that they have a great sense of humor about their images back then, especially Annette, who shows that she really knows how to laugh at herself. But it's just great fun. This couple who fought and loved and all that, made out on the beach back in the 1960s, ended up getting married, having 2 kids, moved to Ohio, and their life is just not very exciting anymore. So they go back to the beach to visit their daughter, who happens to be living on the beach, and they end up having the same old adventures they had. back when they were young, which means they haven't really learned very much. But it's just great fun, lots of good music. Back to the beach. Next up, Paris, Texas, directed by Wim Wenders, starring Harry Dean Stanton and Nastasia Kinski. This is a movie that I went to see back when it first came out. Absolutely hated it. Never wanted to hear about it again. And then all these decades later, I thought, what the hell? Let's give it another chance. And I picked up the Criterion as sort of a blind buy, not even sure that I was going to like it, and I totally fell in love with it. Saw it with more mature eyes, I guess, or something like that. But yeah, it's hypnotic and beautiful, and I love everything about it. Paris, Texas. Next up is Star Trek again. This is The Voyage Home, Star Trek 4. Yeah, sorry, my glasses are on the floor. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. This is one of my favorite in all the Star Trek films, where they injected a lot of comedy and a lot of just more human interaction, and I just think it's great fun. So another one. I could probably watch this along with let's see, First Contact, which is the Next Generation film. Those are my two favorite Star Trek films of all the series. So yeah, I like this very much. And next is After Hours, and this is a Criterion Blu-ray, which I just picked up a couple of days ago. I haven't even watched it yet, but I saw After Hours at the show when it first came out. I've always loved it. It is so quirky and so just totally weird. Griffin Dunn, Rosanna Arquette, just a great movie, directed by Martin Scorsese, who has a very good sense of humor. I wish he had done more comedies, quite frankly. This is a terrific movie. Looking forward to getting into this and watching all the extra features. Next up is another Jim Jarmusch film, which I love so much, Stranger Than Paradise. John Lurie, who is the ultimate cool persona of music and films, even though we didn't make that many films. But just a couple of Hungarian immigrants living in New York City are visited by their young, well, one of the guys, his young female cousin, who comes to experience life in America. And this is about as unlike any America you ever thought ever existed, but it is just so off the wall and so funny. I can't even begin to describe it, but I like it very much. I saw this at the show when it came out too. Really like it. And finally, my number one film, Woody Allen once again, Hannah and Her Sisters, which Woody stars in along with Mia Farrow, Diane Weiss, Barbara Hershey, Max von Sydow. There's so much I could say about this. It's very funny. It has a lot of serious parts to it, and it is probably the most life-affirming, the most positive ending of any of Woody's films, and I just think it's brilliant. The dialogue is brilliant. All the characters are flawed but lovable, even though you don't necessarily like what they're doing, and just my number one film of the decade. So thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and once again, thank you, Tim, for getting this project going. Take care.